Now let's jump into the business of sport. We've been covering the Olympics pretty extensively over here. You might recall Ruth Jebet. She's the 19-year-old who blitzed the field in the women's 3,000 meter steeplechase event earlier this week to win Bahrain's first ever Olympic gold medal. But when that happened, some of the reactions in Kenya, where she was born, were anger, hurt, and a sense of betrayal. The Kenyan-born runner is part of over 80 athletes taking part in the Rio Olympics who are competing for states other than those they were born in. So what is it that compels an athlete to switch their nationality? Is it just about money, or is there a lot more at work here? I discussed that earlier with Martin Kano and CCTV sports editor Celestine Caronet.
Oh no, there's nothing illegal, Rama. Look, it is freedom for all. It is a choice. What the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, however, dictates, the rule is that for you to compete for an adopted nation, you must have competed internationally at global events for at least 3 years for that particular country. And that is why certain athletes, for example, the 3,000 meter steeplechase world record holder Saif Shaheen, who was formerly Stephen Cherono of Kenya, could not compete at the Olympics when he switched nationality because after the 3-year lapse, he couldn't qualify, he got injured, and he never managed to compete at the Olympic Games, despite the fact that he was a very talented runner. So the IAAF has its own rules as well. Sometimes they tend to fast-track the changing of nationality. FIFA, for example, will not allow you to compete for another country once you have competed for a nation as a senior player. So the rules vary, of course, depending on the international federation, but generally, Rama, there's nothing illegal about it. You just go through the paperwork. Once you've gotten it, you get your clear pass and you get your passport.
Martin, coming to you, I mean, sports management is your business. So if hypothetically, if one of your athletes comes to you and says, I would like to run for Qatar, Bahrain, whatever, what sort of legal hurdles do you have to jump through to make that happen?
Well, first of all, I think we have to find out if the athlete has represented Kenya before, because that's usually a hurdle that we have to overcome. They may have to sit out a certain period, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, which they're pushing for now, that they have to sit out not competing for the other country immediately, because it's unfair really to the country of origin for these athletes to immediately jump ship and run in the next race. So there are some legal hurdles, some things they have to go through before they would actually run certified to run for the next country.
But does the country of origin have any veto right over these athletes switching nationalities?
They used to. I think that rule has changed now. I mean, a perfect example was Saif Shaheen or Stephen Cherono back in 2004 when he was running he ran for Qatar in 2003, but the National Olympic Committee didn't allow him to run for Qatar the following year in the Olympics. So that issue was there before. I think now if it's not a veto really, you just have to sit out.
Celeste, let me come to something that you mentioned a little earlier. The issue of the sort of support that these athletes actually do get in terms of training. We've seen a ton of press here about how the Kenyan National Olympic Committee has made an absolute mess of managing athletes in this particular Olympics. We've seen similar reports about Nigeria, for instance. I mean, given all these stories, if countries treat their athletes badly, we shouldn't be surprised if they decide to switch allegiances, should we?
Well, definitely, of course, Rama, when it comes to sports administration, Africa doesn't really have the best examples doing. But the fact that sports administration is run poorly in Africa really, in my opinion, isn't really the biggest number one reason why they even transfer allegiance. Because, you see, for most of these athletes, it often comes down to the depth of talent within a country that they feel like they cannot make it, as Martin said. But yes, Rama, the sports administration isn't helping. In fact, there have been allegations within Kenya itself that certain agents, certain local coaches even help these athletes to change allegiance. They act almost as middlemen and get something out of it. So whether that is true or not, Rama, of course, that's for investigators to find out. But it is really a sad state of affairs, because sometimes also you find that when a name pops up in Qatar or Bahrain or the Middle East or anywhere in the world, and Kenyans go like, oh, that is a runner. Where did he run? So even the database is non-existent of Kenyan athletes as they come up through the ranks. So sometimes athletes who are very talented like Ruth slip through the ranks without anybody noticing, all because administration isn't well done in most African countries, Rama.
And of course, you can catch the rest of that. We'll upload the entire interview online. CCTV www.youtube.com/CCTV Africa Live.